They put my chair in the hallway before the attorney even opened the will. My cousin Blair smiled like she was being kind and said,
Caregivers don't need to hear family business.
She didn't know Aunt Rose had recorded one last message with my name sealed across the envelope. For a moment, I just looked at the chair. It was one of those stiff, wooden office chairs with a green cushion that had gone flat in the middle. Someone had dragged it beside the water cooler, facing a rack of estate planning brochures no one reads until death makes them relevant. My purse sat in my lap. My hands were folded around Aunt Rose's house keys. Blair stood in the doorway wearing a cream-colored suit and the expression people use when they want cruelty to look organized. You can wait right here, June, she said. Right here. Not in the room where my aunt's life was about to be divided into paragraphs. Not beside the people who had called me at midnight when Rose fell, at dawn when her oxygen machine beeped, and on Christmas morning when no one wanted to check whether she had taken her pills. Right here, close enough to be useful if they needed a date, a receipt, or the name of Rose's cardiologist. Far enough away not to be mistaken for family. I did not argue. At 62, you learn that some insults are not asking for an answer. They are asking whether you will finally see the truth you have been trying not to see. So I sat down in the hallway. Blair turned back into the conference room. I heard my cousin Martin ask whether they could get started now, as if I had been the delay. Someone poured coffee. The door did not close all the way, and through the narrow gap I could see the corner of the long mahogany table, Blair's leather folder, and the silver urn that held Aunt Rose's ashes. That was the part that almost made me stand. Rose had hated silver. She said it made everything look colder than it was. She wanted blue glass, or the chipped white vase from her kitchen shelf where she kept the garden scissors. Blair had chosen silver because, according to her funeral program, it was timeless. That was Blair's gift. She could make erasing someone sound tasteful. 10 years earlier, no one called me a caregiver. They called me lucky. You're retired now, Blair told me after Rose slipped on the back steps and cracked her hip. You'll have more flexibility than the rest of us. I had retired from the Savannah School District 3 months before that. 31 years as a secretary had left me with a bad left knee, a drawer full of thank you cards from children who could not spell my name, and a habit of writing everything down. I had planned to volunteer at the library, repaint my kitchen, and maybe take the train to Charleston just because I could. Then Aunt Rose fell. At first, I only went by after physical therapy. I brought soup, sorted mail, and wrote her appointments on the calendar beside the refrigerator. Blair lived 20 minutes away, but had 2 teenagers, a real estate license, and a way of making every favor sound like she was already late for something more important. Martin lived in Atlanta and said the drive was impossible during the week. Paula said hospitals made her anxious. So I handled the first few weeks. The first few weeks became the first winter. Then Rose's blood pressure became unpredictable, and her hearing got worse, and the back bedroom needed a rail beside the bed. I learned which pharmacy filled her prescriptions fastest, which nurse at the clinic returned calls, and how to cook vegetables soft enough for her to chew without making her feel like a child. I learned that she liked the porch light left on until 11 because it made the house look less abandoned. I kept a notebook because I had always kept notebooks. Date, appointment, medication change, amount paid, who called, who did not call. At first it was practical. Then it became the only place where the truth stayed in order. The family had its own version of the truth. June is good with Rose. That sentence followed me for a decade. Blair said it when she missed a doctor's appointment she had promised to attend. Martin said it when he forgot Rose's birthday but sent flowers 3 days late. Paula said it when she asked me to explain why Rose sounded sad on the phone, as though sadness was something I had failed to manage. It sounded like praise until I understood what it really meant. It meant they could keep their lives clean because mine had become available. It meant they could call themselves grateful instead of responsible. It meant if I was tired, I was being unkind. If I asked for help, I was dramatic. If I mentioned money, I was making family feel transactional. Rose noticed more than they thought. She noticed when Blair took photographs during visits, but never stayed long enough to wash a cup. She noticed when Martin called from his car and ended the conversation the moment traffic moved. She noticed when Paula sent herbal tea after every hospital discharge, but never once sat through the discharge instructions. She noticed my car in the driveway before sunrise, my handwriting on the medication chart, and the nights I slept in the blue recliner counting every inhale until morning. One night, about a year before she died, she woke while I was folding towels at the foot of her bed. "June," she said. I turned. "Do you need water?" No. I need you to stop saying you're just helping. I remember smiling because I thought she was being sentimental. Somebody has to keep you out of trouble. Her fingers moved over the quilt, thin and restless. They know where to put you when work needs doing. I did not answer. She looked toward the chair beside her bed, the same chair I had dragged from the kitchen because the hospital chair hurt my back. But when the time comes, she said, do not let them put you outside the room. I told her not to talk like that. People always say that when someone old starts speaking plainly, don't talk like that, as if avoiding the sentence can stop the ending from arriving. Rose only closed her eyes and said, I am not confused, June. I am tired. After she died, Blair became efficient. She chose the funeral home, approved the flowers, selected the readings, and printed a program with a sepia photograph of Rose from Chungubekchil Shipal because, Blair said, it feels more elegant than the recent ones. The recent ones showed Rose in her cardigan, holding my hand at the kitchen table, laughing with her dentures slightly crooked. They looked like her. Blair wanted elegant. At the service, Blair stood in the family line. Martin stood beside her. Paula cried into a linen handkerchief she had bought that morning. I stood near the guest book. People hugged me anyway. Mrs. Alvarez held my face between both hands and whispered, she knew, honey. 2 weeks later, I received a formal letter from Harrowbell. It said my presence was requested at the reading of the will. I read that sentence 4 times. Requested, not optional. Presence, not assistance. For 3 days, I let myself believe Rose had remembered me, not with money. I was thinking about one sentence read in front of everyone that said I had mattered, that Rose had seen the years, that I had not imagined the weight of what I had carried. Then I walked into that law office and saw the chair in the hallway.